You're tuned in to Winning Ponies with your host, John Englehart. Got a tip for us?
Need a tip from us?
If you want to talk with John or his guests, the phone lines are now open toll-free at 1-888-346-9144. That's 1-888-346-9144. Or you can send an email to show@winningponies.com. Now, back to Winning Ponies with John Englehart.
All right, and with me now is going to be a guy that I told you at the top of the show, he kind of been flying under the radar, but the way he's been winning races this year, the bleep is getting louder and louder. His name is Jeff Greenhill. He hails from Alabama. You'll hear that in his voice. He loved horses as a kid, even though he didn't grow up on a farm or anything. He said outside of mom, I think horse was the second word he learned as a kid. Then he got involved after graduating from college, hanging around quarter horses. Again, Jeff graduated as a chemical engineer, was able to take retirement early at 38, if you can believe that. And how about a start? He wasn't just going to step into the game without knowing what he did. Started out hot walking for Hall of Famer D. Wayne Lucas, and under the shed row with him at that time, D. Wayne's assistant was Dallas Stewart, and the foreman was one Mike Maker. He went on to groom for Pete Vestal and learn from the bottom up, as one should. With me right now, a very excited guy since he just got out of the winner's circle, taking home a $40,000 pot over in Indiana. Jeff Greenhill, how are you?
I'm good, John. How about you?
I'm fine now that I'm talking to you. You know, there's so many different ways I can approach this interview, and it seems to me like you seem to be doing everything right. Now, I know you're in a zone right now, but as you know, I've watched you throughout your entire career, and there's so many things that you do right. I really think you got to start writing a book and hand it to people that want to become trainers, because one thing I've always admired about you as a trainer, Jeff, is the fact that you keep your owners informed. I know trainers that, would just say, look, just pay the day rate and show up the day of the races and I'll take it from there. You have a really good ability to communicate with your owners. The other thing I really like is that you offer, I believe, just about every horse you have for partnership, to bring other people into the game, and that you retain a part of the horse. It's not like, hey, here's your horse and I'll train it for you. I believe people can go to jeffgreenhill.com. What is it about your approach to the game that I think makes it really engaging for new ownership?
Well, anymore, it's not really the sport of kings unless you're at the top echelon. Most people can't afford a racehorse, but they can afford 10% of a racehorse. And I love getting people involved, because the more people in the winner's circle, the happier. The more win photos you have to order, just the feedback you get. Like I told you, I think off the air, when you win a race, my phone explodes. I think I won this race tonight, and I may have had 12 texts before I got back to the barn. When you lose a race, it's dead silence. But that's the way it is. Everybody loves a winner, and I love getting people involved, and I love keeping them informed, because that's the fun. You don't want to just be left out there and send a bill every month. That's no fun. So I let them know when their horse breezes, what I thought of the breeze. I let them know when their horse is in, and then after the race, I send a little synopsis of what I thought about the race. And then, of course, we do send out videos after every win called Winner Chicken Dinners, and they've become a real hit with the owners.
Well, it really is. For our listeners to know, once they sign up with you I believe they can go now to jeffgreenhill.com. I know you've been rehashing your website. It's kind of fun. You'll turn your computer on, and all of a sudden you'll see Winner Chicken Dinner, and there's a picture of the horse, a little story about the race, and then you click on that and you can watch the video. One thing I always enjoyed about being involved in your organization, if I can call it that, Jeff, it was the fact that even though I may have only had a part of a horse or two, you felt like you were part of the whole stable. And again, that's something that you've done, I think, as far as being able to make owners feel comfortable and kind of a whole team concept.
Yeah. we actually call it a family concept. The owners pull for other owners' horses, and like those texts I got tonight, the majority of them were probably from owners that didn't even own that horse. But they're just happy to see the stable do well. And we do try and foster a sort of a family-type atmosphere. Come to the barn, see your horse. You know, it's not the kind of thing where I don't want to see my owners come to the barn. I love to see them come to the barn, feed their horse some carrots, and watch them work and answer their questions about how I feel their horse is doing.
Well, but believe me, I've been in this game long enough to know that you, sad to say, are in the minority, and I really hope that trainers will understand, especially in this age of tight money and fewer horses, and that this is the way that you've got to approach it. Now, you probably weren't listening earlier in the show, but I had to announce that both Grade 1 winner Creative Cause and Algorithms, who were, you know, shining stars early in the season, 3-year-olds, have being retired and shuttled off to the breeding shed. You have quite a reputation for just the opposite. You had a great horse that we all loved in the Midwest called El Bamba, a horse who ran until he was 13 years old when he won on his 100th start. That was fantastic. And then there was kind of the house horse, TK's turn. You kept this horse going and going until he was a 10-year-old, and I believe he reeled off like 6 races at that ripe old age of 10. Jeff, what is it you do to keep these horses together? Because quite frankly, El Bamba and TK, they weren't one of your stakes horses.
No. And, you know, I don't know if it's as much me, but when a horse gets to be that age, they've already proven their sound, or they don't ever get to that age. Sometimes I just say some horses have better synovial fluid. I mean, evidently the way they travel doesn't bother them. And so, you know, I'm not saying if I train gemologists and I'll have another that they would be running longer. I've been lucky enough to run across some older horses that were sound, but we work hard to keep them sound. I mean, you know, I've got some really good grooms, and if they get a pimple, you know, I tell people the thing I like to hear least is a groom step out of the stall and say, Jeff, you want to come look at this? Because the answer is no, I don't want to come look at it, but I'm headed that way. And so it's the kind of thing where we stay on top of it every day, look at their legs, look for heat, look for feeling. And if they need to be backed off of, we back off of them. We don't, you know, we try not to squeeze the lemon dry. And
I can testify to that because I saw one that you took back to the farm earlier this week. Now, you seem to have a great system going as far as your selection of yearlings. You seem to get a good bang for your buck. You don't, you know, you obviously don't have the deep pockets of Sheikh Mohammed, but tell me a little bit about your selection process in yearlings and then how you kind of evaluate their worth and offer them to your partners.
Well, we go and look for the athlete. Truthfully, I don't even want to look at the page and be swayed by the page. My buddy Chip Muth and I go to that back ring at Keeneland or the back ring at Fasig-Tipton, and we look at it, you know, every horse that walks by. And then we usually are kind of on the same horse because we're looking for a horse, as Chip likes to say, that everything moves forward on. You know, you're looking for confirmation, but primarily you're looking for something that looks like an athlete, that's well balanced, you know, stands over a good bit of ground, has a nice long neck to him. I love long necks. And I think Dwayne Lucas used to say, you look for a horse that's got a head like a princess, a butt like a washerwoman, and a walk like a hooker. So that's and we've been really lucky and fortunate in that we have paid modest amounts. Like that horse that won the Best of Ohio last weekend, we picked him up for $17,000. The horse that broke his maiden at Presque Isle Downs, I think we gave $23,400. Now that sounds like a lot of money, but believe me, when you're playing at Keeneland, you're buying late in the sale when you're spending that kind of money, because early in the sale they're bringing $500,000 and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. You told me a little bit about the story and about Chip saying, "Hey, I found this real kind of athletic looking thing." Though he hasn't been brought up as a hothouse rose, and that turned out to be silver tongued. And the greatest thing is that he asked what you were looking for. He's saying, "Well, it'd be great if I could get an Ohio bred." You guys looked down in the book, and it turned out that silver tongued was an Ohio bred. You've had amazing success with state bred programs, Jeff. Explain how you approach that.
Well, state bred programs are, obviously, you're not running against those heavy head Kentucky horses. And the purses right now, the state bred programs are better outside of Kentucky, because Kentucky really doesn't have a state bred program. So this race tonight in Indiana Downs was 2-year-old maiden special weight Indiana sired horses. It was a $40,000 pot. Now on top of that, because we bred the horse and we own the horse, we get another, 40%. In other words, we essentially won the entire $40,000 pot, because once we get to 60% for winning the race and the breeders and the owners, it comes to about $40,000. And then in Ohio, the program there has been depressed because of the purses for so long. So if you can pick up an Ohio bred, for just a little bit of money, he doesn't have to beat a whole lot, because there's just not that many of them out there. There might be 100 Ohio bred 2-year-olds out there. So if you get one that can run a little bit, it's you're going to make some money. The Indiana program, I'm rambling now, but the Indiana program, I've got a filly out of a mare that you used to own part of named Pay the Toll. She's still a 3-year-old, and counting her breeder's incentive and the money she's won off almost $250,000, and she's just a 3-year-old.
Yeah, there's a lot of upside. Is it, ain't she a saint or she ain't a saint?
Ain't she a saint? But most people who are around her for long call her she ain't a saint. But she can be a little bit of a handful.
Well, I'm sorry I was one generation away from owning her, but I'm glad to know that Pay the Toll, I've seen some of her other babies are looking, and I got a feeling they're going to do well for you in the future. Well, again, Jeff, I want to make sure I got it right. It is JEFFGreenhill.com. Is that your new website?
Right. That's it.
Great. Well, I encourage Winning Ponies listeners to go there and to check out, because you put a plan into motion. Shortly after you were 38 years old, you walked away from a top profession as a chemical engineer, and I only see you getting better and better every year with the thoroughbred you train, Jeff.
Well, I appreciate it, and rub just a little bit of salt in the wound. It was a Pay the Toll colt that won tonight, or a
Oh! Well, as soon as I get these college loans paid off, I'm getting back in business with you, my friend.
We'll be looking forward to that day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Jeff Greenhill, a trainer in the Midwest. And let me tell you, you've got to see this guy's schedule. Actually, I think he asked some owners that instead of a day rate, just to pay him by the mile. Because if you watch Jeff in a week, he can easily, within a 3-day span, have a horse in Indiana, a horse at Turfway, and a horse at Presque Isle in a 3-day period, sometimes in a 2-day period. And to be honest with you, he doesn't just stay in the tack room and send them up with somebody. Jeff gives the personal touch, takes those horses himself and gets them there. A pretty amazing individual, Jeff Greenhill. And another amazing individual is going to be joining us here in just a minute or two when we bring on Steady Eddie Meyer to break it down and do some handicapping on Winning Ponies.